Good morning, everyone. We are Team D, and today we will be presenting the case Gateway Realty Limited versus Arton Holdings Limited. This case involves a commercial lease dispute between a landlord and tenants. In our group, we are six members: me, Sanjamjit Singh, Arshdeep Kaur, Parneet Panju, Aryan Singh Sandhu, and Ritik Singh. In this case, we are talk about the different type of key points like introduction, procedural history, legal issues, holding, rational, and question and answers. In the last, we are talk about the conclusion and key takeaways. Arton took over a lease from Zellers in a shopping plaza, but failed to meet their lease obligations, leading to financial harm from the plaza. Gateway Realty urged that this was a fundamental breach of contract and sought to be terminate the lease. We will discuss the fact, legal issues, court decision, and key lessons from this case. That was the background of the case. Now let's hear from Arshdeep Kaur about what happened next.
Let's talk about the history of this case, where Gateway Realty Limited sued to terminate a lease agreement with Arton Holdings and Lehigh, claiming breaches of the duty to act in good faith and related obligations. The trial court ruled in favor of Gateway, terminating the lease and granting a permanent injunction after reopening the evidence. Moving forward towards the legal issues of this case, where the first key legal issue is the breach of the good faith obligation. Gateway argued that Artin and Leahy failed to act in good faith by not leasing the space and failing to maintain the plaza's viability. The inaction was seen as contrary to the core terms of the lease, which required both parties to work towards the success of the property. The second issue revolves around the enforceability of the May 11, 1988 agreement. Gateway argued that this agreement was valid and required Arden Leave to use their best efforts to lease the space and maintain the plaza's viability. The failure to do so was seen as a breach of these enhanced obligations. Lastly, the court considered whether Arden and Leave's action amounted to a fundamental breach of the lease, which would justify its termination. Gateway contended that the breach was severe enough to destroy the purpose of the lease, ultimately leading to its termination. So, in summary, Gateway sued to terminate the lease due to breaches of good faith, violation of the 1988 agreement, and a fundamental breach by Arton and Lehigh.
Sanjam Singh, and I'm going to talk about holdings. The court ruled in favor of Gateway, granting the following. The first one is termination of the lease. After careful consideration, the court concluded that defendants Alton had failed to meet the obligations under the lease agreement. The failure was deemed significant enough to justify the termination of the lease. The breach was not just a minor infraction but one that went to the heart of the contract, undermining the entire purpose of the lease agreement. The second point is permanent induction. As a part of the ruling, the court imposed a permanent injunction against Alton. This legal measure restrained them from any further interference in plaza property. The injunction is intended to protect Gateway's interest and ensure the smooth operations and management of the plaza, free from any disruptive actions by Alton. Then, legal applications. The court the court's decision was grounded in important legal principles, including the doctrine of good faith performance and the concept of fundamental breach of contract. The actions of Alton was determined to constitute a significant breach, failing to align with the essential purpose of the lease. The failure had a direct detrimental impact on the viability and success of the plaza. The court applied these principles to underscore the importance of the adhering to contractual obligations, thereby safeguarding interest of the parties involved and ensuring fair play in contractual relationships. we are going to talk about rational breach of good faith. In its ruling, the court determined that Arton engaged in actions that constituted a breach of good faith. Especially, the court found that they did not utilize their best efforts in leasing the available space of suitable tenants. The neglect not only violated the term of the lease agreement but also hindered the plaza's ability to attract and retain tenants, ultimately affecting its overall income. The court highlighted such a failure contributed to a significant departure from the expectations set forth by the original Jealous Gateway lease. The agreement was built on principles of cooperation and mutual benefits, aiming to foster a thriving commercial environment. After that, a pivotal aspect of the lease was the best effort clause included in the agreement signed on May 11, 1988. The clause placed a clear obligation on the parties involved to diligently and actively pursue suitable tenants for the lease space. The idea was to ensure that Plaza remained a vibrant and economically sustainable. By neglecting this duty, Arton not only failed the upholding their contractual obligations but also compromised the collection success envisaged by all the stakeholders. The court, the court emphasized that the actions taken by Alton directly impacted the viability of the plaza as a commercial entity. The inaction demonstrates a lack of commitment to the principles of good faith and fair dealing that are fundamental of constitutional relationship. This breach not only reflect poor on the business practice but also created a ripple effect that jeopardized economy sustainable of the plaza. Throughout this ruling, the court underscored the importance of adhering the contractual obligations and the necessity for all parties to act in good faith. The findings serve as a reminder that a breach of these principles can have serious consequences, not only contractual relationships but also for a broader commercial ecosystem in which they operate. Thank you. Now my friend will continue.
Let's move to the fundamental breach. The court found that Arton La have committed a fundamental breach by failing to maintain the plaza's viability. A fundamental breach occurs when one party's failure annihilates the contract's core benefit for the other party. By not securing a suitable tenant, Arton violated the lease purpose, justifying Gatesway's right to terminate the agreement. The court applied Lord Diplock's definition, reinforcing that when a breach destroys a contract's value, terminated is warranted. Enforcement of the May 11, 1998 agreement. The court ruled that the May 11, 1998 agreement was a valid amendment requiring Arton Lahav to use their best efforts to lease the space. Their failures to comply breached this enforceable obligation, supporting Gateway's case of lease termination. This ruling highlights that the best efforts clauses are legally binding. Ignoring them can lead to several legal consequences. Consequences of the breach. Arton's Lab's failure had direct economic impacts, reduced foot traffic and plaza profitability, financial losses for Gateway and other tenants, legal consequences, lease termination, and the permanent injunction. The case reinforces that the following contractual obligations in commercial leases can have serious legal and financial repercussions.
Hi, my name is Praneeth. Now, on my part, I'm going to answer the specific questions of this case study, in which the first question is: was on the May 11th, 1988, the amendment to the original lease? So, by doing all the case, all the require information about this case, we get to know that yes, the court found that on the May 11th, the agreement was efficiently an amendment to an original Zeal's Gateway lease. Moreover, it expands the obligation of Arton and Lehave by requiring them to actively lease the space to the suitable uh, tenants and maintain the economical variables of the plaza. Or after that, there was one more important and specific question which we want to discuss now, which was: did the court apply the doctrine to the fundamental breach? So it's same, it was yes, the court applied for the doctrine to fundamental breach, the determining that Leighton and Lay have failure to completely with the lease essentials purpose maintain the variability and of the plaza justified to transmit on the lease agreement. That's all from my side. Thanks.
Hello everyone, my name is Singh Sandhu and I am going to talk about conclusion and key takeaways. First, about conclusion. In outcome, we got that Gateway was entitled to termination of the lease and permanent injunction against Arton Lehave. Also, the court found that Arton Lehave action amounted to a fundamental breach of the lease agreement and which lead to the violation of obligation under the May 11th, 1988 agreement, which impacted the case reinforced the importance of good faith in contract performance and even clarified the application of fundamental breach in the context of like commercial leases, especially in shopping center leases where tenant viability is crucial. Now coming to the key takeaways, there are five key takeaways which we got from this case. First, this case highlights the importance of good faith performance in commercial lease agreements, which has set example for others too. Moreover, court treat commercial leases as contracts, not just property agreements, allowing for remedies like termination. Moreover, fundamental breach occurs when a party actions deprive the other of entire benefit of the contract, whereas best efforts clauses create enforceable obligation. Failing to meet them can justify contract termination. Thank you.
Thank you.